Now, if you played high school sports, or you got a kid that plays high school sports, you're saying to your radio, is Gord nuts? And that was my first reaction. But I think we got to look at the reality of high school sports right now. And that is, teachers face great pressure not to coach. The BCTF doesn't want teachers coaching because that's done outside of the contract. Okay? Would it be better for everybody if high school football, high school volleyball, high school basketball, high school track and field, those are the big four, if they just got moved back to community sports? There are leagues that could take them. There are basketball leagues, the old Steve Nash League, right? Remember that, the Grizzlies? There's the community basketball. Volleyball already has clubs all over the Lower Mainland. Okay? So does basketball as well. Football, there's junior football all over the place. So why not have the junior clubs take over and create a high school division? Because the TF is telling teachers it doesn't want them doing something for nothing. And how many high schools, if you got a kid in high school, you find out how many non-teachers are coaching. How many kids can't play a high school sport because there isn't a teacher to coach and there's nobody from the community? Why not throw it back to the community? And then your kid goes to school, doesn't go to school for the chess club, doesn't go to school for the football team, goes to school to learn. Okay? It's a cleaner environment. It isn't complicated. CUPE has got 27,000 people that might go out on strike next week because they're after more money. Okay? They may screw up high school sports. Why not just move it back into the community? It might take a year or two, but it is doable. Not as crazy an idea as it might sound off the top. 604-280-9898. Star 9898 on your cell phone. Long distance, 1-877-399-9898. We'll pay the charges. Send me an email, twt@cknw.com. Let's go to the phones. Peter and Langley. Pete, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I think it's a nice topic to bring up, but I'm going to start by saying I don't think the CUPE strike or potential job action is going to have the impact you think. Teacher strike that may be coming, that would for sure. I'm also going to say, as a former educator, it's important to note that the reality is the BCTF may not want teachers to do it, but coaches do. So I'm going to preface all my comments with that.
Peter, the coaches could still coach. They would just move over. So you know what, the Langley Rams create a high school division, and whatever kids are playing high school football in Langley would be under the auspices of the Rams. The high school coaches, whether they're teachers or not, simply move on over to the basketball league, the volleyball league, or the football league run by a community organization, as it is now in most of soccer and baseball and hockey.
So let's go to why I think it's not going to change, though you're certainly raising some valid points. The first is that without a doubt it's a benefit to the school spirit, to the whole idea of the school having facilities that are used with those purposes in mind. Secondly, it is without a doubt the great equalizer. It's the same reason that music programs are beneficial in schools. There are lots of kids that, though the community program is available, their parents or the support system around those kids won't offer it. The school is a ready-made opportunity for equalizing opportunity and availability.
I don't know about that one, Peter. Talk about the jocks who get the spots on the teams and the kids who don't. I'm not sure if it's any different at a high school or at community soccer or volleyball or basketball. Is it a bad idea? Peter's got some problems with it. Maybe you don't. 604-280-9898. Let's take sports out of high school. Yes or no? Now listen, I'm a graduate of Riverside Senior Secondary School, Windsor, Ontario, and I wore my Riverside Rebel jacket with great pride. But that was then and this is now. We got schools in huge funding crunches. If you go into a gym and you find out how many of the coaches of the varsity teams are actually teachers and how few of them are, would it make more sense to simply move our high school sports back into the community? The coaches could still coach. The kids could still play. If it's used in the gym, the school board could charge for it, make a couple of bucks as long as it was reasonable. So the facilities would be used. Now, some schools have great school spirit with their varsity teams, but we'll get rid of all this crap about jocks being important. Move that out of it. And really, in today's modern world with today's funding, are our high schools really there to teach the kids and not the extracurriculars? Because the union doesn't want teachers volunteering their time to coach. Okay? It doesn't. It wants teachers to get paid for teaching, period. 3 o'clock, 3:30, boom. That's when you're done. Not another 4 hours out on the football field. Is it that crazy an idea, 604-280-9898, to take high school sports, put it back in the community, kids will still play sports, but just get it out of the schools? Sean in Coquitlam, thanks for your patience. Sean, go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. I'm hearing a lot of valid points, and I think ultimately, as an athlete myself and someone who made his best friends and developed relationships with teachers, in high school playing sports, I think the number one thing is that everyone just gets to play, finds a way to play. It's just a little disturbing to hear that one of the major components of this discussion is that the teachers' union does not want the teachers to coach.
Oh, it's a huge issue, Sean. It's a huge issue because when we get into a labor dispute, I remember a couple of years ago the union didn't, told the teachers not to coach when there was a strike, and oh my, that set off a whole lot of heartache. I'm just wondering if, maybe they're right. Maybe high school is to learn, and you would still play your sports. It just would be for the community football team or the community basketball team, or like you do for soccer and hockey.
Yeah, I think if this ever turns into anything, all that matters is that as many kids as possible get the opportunity to play sports, because it's huge for character development, it's huge for relationship building, it's huge for networking. Kids grow up through teams and they get an opportunity to coach. I got my first real job that way, and Yeah, good, and then that's what I think it's tough to go either way on it, because sports are, athletics are just so important.
Yeah, no, I'm not preaching doing away with the sports. I'm just really wondering, asking the question, should we just move it sideways back into the community? Dan in New West. Dan, you're on the air.
Hi, thanks for my call here. You know what? There's a couple of issues here that I'd find right away is the union job, and of course that in the community, a lot of the coaches of these teams are volunteers anyway, right? So it's not like someone else would be paid for that position. And within the union, that would usually be the question to be asked, right? Is someone going to be paid, and is someone missing work? So
yeah, but most of the big, at least Dan, in the old days, most of the big coaches, the basketball coach, or the football coach, or the volleyball coach, was a teacher, got time carved out of the day because they had to put in so many extra hours coaching. Now, it's much harder today in this world with the contracts.
Yeah, and going and superseding the contract is something people are willing to do. And then, of course, having access to these other sports and allowing kids to develop. I used to work for the Ministry of Children, and being able to have the kids out there and interacting, whether it is with coaches and adults and other kids, the variables of having them together allow the growth in such a way that it'd be hard to do away without having the teachers being there and building those relationships.
Good point. Thank you very much. Okay, should we move high school sports out of the schools over to the community sports organizations? I'm not saying that the kids don't play, but it's just that with the pressures of funding for schools, the union telling teachers it doesn't want them doing after-school activities for free as part of the job. Okay, like coaches were back in the 60s and 70s. You were expected to coach and do it for nothing. And the union says we don't want teachers to do that, and I don't blame the union for saying that. Would it be better for everybody? Now, it's a crazy thing to think of at the start, but when you give it some thought, maybe it's not such a bad idea. Let's go to Kim in Sydney. Kim, thanks for your patience. Go ahead.
Hi, Gord. Yeah, I'm smelling a bit of a rat here, and I got to call you on this. I don't disagree with where I think you're coming from, which is you ought to be calling the teachers union out on this business.
Well, no.
Let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I get this, and I'm totally behind that. But this is about, that's what it's really about. Is they should let teachers be and decide whether they want to coach after all, because that is the best solution, and none of the solutions that you're sending up there to try and get people to call in are really good solutions at all, I think, if you're being honest about it. Students need to take part in sports at a school. The facilities are already there. They're in PE. It just follows that you'd be in a school sport. And teachers ought to be teaching it and coaching it afterwards if they want to.
But Kim, in the way it used to be was that a teacher got hired to coach the football team, and that's a ton of time, and his course load would be much less because everybody knew that he spent 3-4 hours, probably 6 times a week, for that high school football team. Well, the union's saying, wait a minute here, he should be paid for either pay him to be a football coach or don't. But don't expect him to do, or the volleyball coach that spends 2.5 hours a night for 6 nights a week during season. Don't expect them to do it and teach. One or the other.
Well, you're exaggerating the hours a little bit for most high schools.
Well, but Kim, the reality is that most high schools now have non-teachers coaching. Now, I get the bit about school spirit. Farhan Lalji and a couple of others have done an absolutely fantastic job at New Westminster Secondary. The pride through the football program at that big inner-city high school has been improved dramatically with the refurbishment, the revitalization of that football program. Charles Tupper Secondary, basketball team, back on the map after, a couple of decades? Fantastic job by the men and women coaching basketball at Tupper, a top East Side school. But I know a school in North Van where in grade 10 a mom who didn't know basketball had to come in and coach the varsity basketball team because there wasn't a teacher who could coach and nobody in the community. And those good athletes weren't going to play if a mom who didn't know the game hadn't stepped forward. Steve in Vancouver, you get last word, Steve.
Well, thanks, Gord. The one thing, too, is that now, when you played high school sports, and I played high school sports in the 80s, now you have to pay, a fee for your child that's going to high school. So, you pay a community organization a fee, and now you're paying for this, for their referees and other things they need. So it's really turned into that. And also the teachers, there's just, at the elementary school level, my son, his basketball team, they had a couple of parents that had to, step up and volunteer because it's just not there anymore.
Steve, thank you very much. Interesting idea.